Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Liverpool podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. I'm Jesse Sarwar. It's been a tough few days for the Reds as we still digest the heartbreak of Champions League elimination at the hands of PSG after that dramatic penalty shootout. But what better way to get over that disappointment than a trip to Wembley and the chance to win the League Cup? Joining me today to discuss that big cup final weekend is Louie Easton. How's it going, Louie?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Just a tough pill to swallow, that Champions League, but yeah, let's not be too spoilt about it. Got a big final coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, onwards and upwards. And after much transatlantic negotiations, I finally got our friend Irby White, who is stateside to podcast with me. Irby, good to have you on. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to get Tuesday out of my head as well and just focus on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been a couple of days now since we exited the Champions League. What are your thoughts now in terms of, where we are, what kind of season we're having, what kind of season we can still have? How are you looking now at that Champions League defeat, Louis?
Well, I'm looking at it with a bit of hindsight, obviously. Still Slot's first season, which is, it just doesn't seem like it is still his first season because we've been through so much with him already. But if you asked me before the season what kind of optimism I would have had, this is genuinely what I would have said. Top 4, quarterfinal of the Champions League and a cup final. And, we've got 2 out of those 3 things. One of them is we've got more than just a top 4. We're still probably on course to win the Premier League, especially after Arsenal dropped points to Manchester United on the weekend. We have every right to be optimistic going into this cup final on the weekend, especially since we haven't lost to Newcastle in our last 17 meetings with them. And also the fact that we got beaten by PSG, but we took them to penalties, and also it's Slot's first season. So, I shouldn't be too disheartened by it, but obviously seeing us come so close to beating them it's that sort of agonizing feeling of, we could have done it and we were so close. But yeah, once we can move on from that defeat, we can realize how successful Slot has been in his first season. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Irby, your thoughts? I mean, do you think we've missed an opportunity here? Obviously City aren't there. The quarterfinals would have been against Aston Villa, or again, is it maybe a harsh take on what has already been an excellent first season for Arne Slot?
I'm still processing it. We've had a couple seasons before Slot where we had the Atletico, where we dropped out of the round of 16 to Atletico and then to Real Madrid. I'm so used to seeing us progress and playing, in April, in May in the Champions League. So it's a hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, we do have the league to wrap up here soon, and we've got a chance to get a trophy in 2-3 days time. So it's hard not to try not to be too spoiled, especially like you said, Louis, in Slot's first season. Can't ask for too much, but at the same time, I mean, that's the one we all dream of every year, right? So it's a tough pill to swallow after, dominating the group play, finishing top, and then you're out just in the round of 16. It's a tough one, but we have to remain optimistic and say the league is still there. I mean, we and a chance to go level with Manchester United on league titles. I mean, we can't take that for granted as well. So all to play for Sunday and here in the league as well. So I think getting our hands on the trophy Sunday, I think will ease everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do also think that with this Champions League, it's the first season of this kind of new format. And I do think that, teams are kind of finding their way with this new format. And I think that maybe from next season, there isn't going to be necessarily this kind of absolute desire to finish top of the group. I think as long as you get into that top 8 and qualify automatically, then, who knows who you're going to get. You could get one of these teams like Real Madrid, who notoriously, they don't start very well in the Champions League. They start motoring, from around about now. And even last night, I don't know if you guys saw the game. I mean, Atletico Madrid have got to feel really hard done by, just leaving the penalties aside. I thought that they were really, really good at home and probably should have knocked them out, before it even got to penalties. But there's all this controversy about, the penalty, the double hit and everything. But I just think that next season, I think that we'll see, a slightly different makeup with the Champions League. But anyway, look, let's turn our attention to Sunday's Carabao Cup final against Newcastle United. It's a 4:30 p.m. kickoff UK time. That's 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Liverpool are the defending holders. Newcastle, they're still trying to get their hands on silverware for the first time since 1955. So, Louie, Slot, as we said, has had an incredible first season so far. How important is it to him, for the club, for this team, that we go out and we win this final?
Well, with the Carabao Cup, it's always deemed the less important of all of the competitions available to those who qualify for European football, and everything else as well. But I just think it's a great opportunity to really sort of cement his name into the Liverpool legacy. If he wins 2 trophies, as it seems like it's going to happen in his first season, would be unbelievable. It's sort of like it's. I've always seen the Carabao Cup as it's one that you're not overly excited to win, but you'd be very disappointed to lose. But it's still a major trophy, and it's one that is available to us now because we fought this hard to get this far, and it probably means more to Newcastle than it does to us. But after that disappointing result earlier in the week, it's like, oh, we've still got this to concentrate on. And it seems like a sort of match where we can really sort of recover our emotions and concentrate on what's still there to be won for the rest of the season, as well as the Premier League.
I think that's a really good point. Irby, where do you sit on the question of the kind of after effects of that Champions League exit? Could there be a hangover going into this game, or is it just the kind of game to lift the players and remind them of how much there is still left to play for and achieve this season?
I think if it was a Premier League match, we could see a bit of a hangover, feeling a little bit down on ourselves if we had to go, to, in a way, like if we had to play Forest away, that would be disappointing. Like something like that would be a tough game to have it to turn around. But Louis said it's a final. It's at Wembley. We're the defending champions. We're the holders. And I think it's massive. I mean, I think Slot wants to desperately get his hands on his first piece of silverware as quick as possible. Louis, you said it probably means more to Newcastle than it does to us. I think it means more to Slot than it does to Newcastle to get his hands on that trophy as soon as possible. But what I'm kind of worried about is the feeling that's going to surround the supporters if we don't win on Sunday. I think there's going to be
taking down your scarf behind you.
Of course he is. Of course he is. I think there's
those who are not watching and those who are just listening. There's a cat behind Irby and has just pulled down some scarf.
Mo Salah scarf too.
Was that most? Obviously not happy with Mo's performance on Tuesday night, right?
But yeah, back to I'm worried. What I'm worried about is if we don't win on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of talk by pundits, by rival clubs. If we don't win on Sunday and then getting knocked out of the Champions League on Tuesday, you guys want me to move him? Because I can't if it's distracting.
It's fine. You carry on. If you want to move him, it's fine.
Yeah, but that's what I'm worried about is if we don't get our hands on that trophy, everyone's going to be talking about, well, Slot only won the league with Klopp's team in a season where other teams were not at their level, and I think people are going to write off the success of our season, right? And I think that's the last thing everybody wants is people downplaying Slot's success. So getting 2 trophies obviously is what the goal is now, but that's what I fear for the manager and for the club is just everyone's going to downplay Slot's success if we only win the league. And I'm saying that, from the perspective of another fan, oh, you only won the league with Klopp's team when City and Arsenal weren't at their best, if you understand what I'm saying.
To be fair, though, I think people do this all the time. I think, when we won it, it was the COVID year and, the league got cancelled. There's always these excuses. And look, at the end of the day, we're not responsible for Manchester City.
No.
We're not responsible for how other teams play. And I think if we get above 90 points, then irrespective of whether Manchester City were going to fall off a cliff edge or not, that would have been a competitive season and we would have taken Man City to the wire. But, I agree with you. That is what other club fans will say. Louie, an interesting quote from Slot after that Champions League loss. He said, I quote, "I can see why we weren't involved in the Champions League 2 seasons ago and why we went out to Real Madrid after losing 5-2 at home." I thought that was a really interesting quote. Do you think there's going to be some changes at the end of the season?
I think that's what everyone's expecting to happen. I mean, we've seen so much talk about it. The one that I really don't want to leave is Virgil van Dijk because, I mean, he's our captain and he still hasn't had anything proposed to him as far as I'm aware, but it's a mess if he leaves. He's the best centre-back in Premier League history, in my opinion, and our best centre-back, I mean, certainly rivaling Alan Hansen, but it's just without him we wouldn't be where we have been these last few years. But I mean, I can see why Darwin is being moved on. I think that's what we're all seeing is going to happen. He works hard and he's got so much passion whenever he plays, but I think at the end of the day, he's just not good enough. He's not good enough to be at Liverpool Football Club.
Is the baseline prerequisite for any professional football, let alone playing for Liverpool, right?
Yeah, it felt like the end Tuesday night too. You could just kind of see it and feel it. It felt like the end. Just his expressions, the way the fans were. It was just. It felt like the end for him.
Do you know what I think? I think we should have held on to Firmino for another couple of seasons because we haven't been able to replace him yet. I mean, Jota's been constantly injured. We've all seen his talent, but he didn't turn up against PSG and he hasn't been good enough since coming back from his injury. He doesn't look after himself and he keeps on getting sidelined and he keeps on getting worse every time he comes back. And I think, Firmino is one of those players where you don't need... He didn't rely on his fitness or his hard work. He was just so clever and he could conduct an attack. And I think we let him go way too early. But
didn't he want to go on his own, though? I mean, didn't he approach Klopp about wanting to go on his own when his contract expired?
We did much to convince him to stay. I mean, it was the same with Henderson. Henderson didn't particularly feel like he needed to go, but he didn't make much of an effort to keep him. So I think maybe it could have been the same with Firmino. And the fact that we haven't replaced him, we spent all of this money on Darwin Núñez, who, I mean, listen, he's got talent, but he's not good enough. And we need someone to come in the summer who is good enough to the point where we can really challenge these other European clubs. And, Man City will be back next season. And I think if this is City of old, we wouldn't get near the title at the moment. So... yeah,
I think this could be a radical summer for Liverpool. I really do.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think that the season of transition for Slot is going to be his second season and not his first. His first season, this season, was all about stability. Inheriting Klopp's team, no signings. So, you make these kind of tactical tweaks, but there's no kind of big change in terms of personnel. But if you think about it, we're potentially looking to replace Salah, Trent, and Van Dijk, right? And that's even before we start looking at the reinforcements we'd be looking to make, even if those 3 players were to stay. So even if those 3 players sign, we'd still be looking to make replacements. But if those guys go, we're talking at a big overhaul. And I think Slot will be bringing in players that he wants to, really putting his stamp on this team. So, I mean, Irby, it could be interesting times ahead after this season.
Yeah, you just said that, and I've thought about that, with all the quotes and all the stuff that's been coming out online about the big summer ahead with all the big departures and arrivals. And it just jogged my memory back to the summer of 2011. I just looked it up. We signed Downing, Henderson, Coates, Charlie Adam, Jose Enrique, Danny Ward, Bellamy.
Jesus.
Like 7 first-team signings. And I think we're going to see something similar this summer.
Let's not hope it's not similar in quality, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, Henderson was the only one that lasted, right?
I give some credit to Stuart Downing. He was all right for a while.
Yeah, and that Craig Bellamy second stint, he was, one of the reasons we got that Carabao Cup, right? The big performance against City in the home leg. But
apparently as well.
Yeah, but like you said, I think it's going to be, I think there's a realistic chance. I think at least 4. I think we could get up to 7, especially if Van Dijk and Salah and Trent all leave. It would be at least 7, but I'd like to take that out of the equation, think all 3 stay. I still think there's going to be 5 to 6 additions to the squad that are slots players, because we've seen players, and we've all talked about it, about Harvey Elliott not playing.
Yeah.
It really feels like Slot has his 14, his 15, 16 players, if not even 16. And so I think he probably is realizing in the Premier League in England with these 4 competitions and the crazy schedule, I probably need 20, 21 players. I probably need 5 that are my type of players. So yeah, I think we're going to see a big summer, and it's going to be, I still think there's targets out there that we have not identified, that Fabrizio and all the journalists that surround the club have not identified yet. There's going to be stuff that comes out in May and June. I think we'll see some similar signings like Cody Gakpo or Fabinho, where it just happens out of nowhere. We're linked, and then next thing you know, they're holding the red shirt.
Yeah,
so
guy as well,
yeah. But I'm excited for that. But I still want to see players like Harvey succeed. I think he deserves his chance. I think that's the one we all are desperate to see.
I would have liked to see more Chiesa. I was so excited when we brought him in. I thought this could be his real redemption arc since his ACL last season, and he just hasn't got the chance. I don't understand
that signing.
No, I don't get it either.
I don't understand that signing. If you pay £12 million and then trumpet that as a real kind of opportunistic, great value signing, well, then make use of it now and again. And I don't think, and if you're not going to make use of him, then why did we not go in for, I'm going to try and say his name, Kvaratskhelia, when he was at Napoli? Because for me, and I've said this on the podcast, multiple times, even before any kind of hint that he was leaving Napoli, he is the kind of player. For me, he was perfect for Liverpool, because he can play left wing, he can play right wing, he can play all across that front line. And you know what? I tell you what he also does. He shoots.
Mm-hmm.
He shoots.
And he's 2-footed.
He's so 2-footed, and he can come back as well. Like he can play in midfield if he needs to.
He doesn't have to be just like 10 yards out. He'll be 25, 30 yards out. He'll skip past the defender. He'll get a sight on goal, and he will let fly. And I just thought, the attack looked against PSG. It didn't look as potent and as either we've had earlier in the season, or certainly not in the past with the likes of, Salah, Mane, Firmino. And again, I just think that we've developed this really annoying modern phenomena of a refusal or a fear to shoot. For crying out loud, if you're a professional footballer, if you are on the edge of the area, I'm telling you now, 9 times out of 10, in fact, you know what? Probably 10 times out of 10, in training, you are shooting, you're hitting the target, you're scoring. Just shoot. Donnarumma was, for me, a very dodgy goalkeeper. And he was flapping at crosses that he should have crossed. Fine, he does well in penalty shootouts. That's because he's 8'4" or something. You know, for crying out loud, just shoot. And I just don't understand, Irby, this reluctance to shoot. And for me, it's the Guardiola disease. You know,
Yes.
walk it in from 2 centimeters.
Yes. Wow. It's so funny you say that. It's a phenomenon across all levels of the game. You know, I coach here in the States, and it's a thing at the youth level too. We worked on Tuesday or Monday about shooting on your weak foot. And you know what? In our game Tuesday, one of our best players, who's very right-footed, shot with his left foot, scored when he really wanted to cut it onto his right. And I was like, see, guys, it's a chance. I was like, you guys are going to get 3 to 4 more chances a game. It's the same thing at this level. If you use your weak foot, whether it's a cross or a shot, you get 3 to 4 chances extra a game. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like you take those chances. You maybe get an extra corner. Whatever it is. I don't understand it. It's like you said, Pep has changed it, and it's something we've seen all teams picking up on. You have to walk it into the back of the net, and there's just reliance on using your strong foot too.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I just want to credit Salah here, though. He's still not afraid to shoot on his right foot. At times he cuts it onto his left when he shouldn't, but he still, when he has these little half chances, he'll take it with his right foot. You know, it may not lead to a goal, but it leads to a chance, a deflection, someone's there, you know, to follow the rebound. I don't get it. And I kind of want to rebound on your point about, you know, Mane and Firmino. We also don't have, you know, that deputy to Salah. You know, we do rely on Salah to score goals. You know, before it was Mane. Firmino would score the goal when he was needed. But Mane, I mean, was scoring at just about a similar rate to Salah. Like, we don't have that. We don't have that. Like, we thought it would be Jota, but he can't stay fit. He doesn't look after himself. Gakpo has shown glimpses of it, but he, since his injury, hasn't really played. Chiesa hasn't gotten a minute. Nunez can't seem to score from 4 yards. Like, we need that number 2 who's going to also get 20 goals in all competitions alongside.
Louie,
I just think.
Does that mean that there's a question mark over pretty much that entire forward line? I mean, you know, Diaz, Nunez, Jota, Chiesa. I mean, is there, come to summer, does that mean that all of those players are, you know, they could be in the firing line?
I don't know, because I think there aren't as who's available in the world that is as good as Sadio Mane was for us during that period. There's no one other than like Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, maybe Musiala, but there's no one who has that sort of like physical, mental, like all of it combined into one.
Right. We've got to find the Mane in the same.
Yeah.
In the way that we bought Mane when he wasn't the Sadio Mane that we came to love. We bought Mohamed Salah when he wasn't the Mohamed Salah that we came to love. Right? We bought them at £30 million, and everyone was thinking, you just gave Southampton £30 million for Sadio Mane. So that's the job of our recruitment,
I suppose. Yeah,
team,
but
right?
maybe Marmoush was that player.
Yeah,
He's that player.
I agree, 100%. Again, I was on the podcast. I was saying, look, Marmoush, for me, he's another one of these guys. He can play across that front line. He's unpredictable. I think he's going to get, I think he's going to get better and better, unfortunately. But look, we've got to speak about the cup final, right?
Sorry.
So, Irby, how does Slot approach this game tactically, right? We know that Newcastle they're going to be very aggressive, particularly in that all-important midfield area. Joe Linton is expected to return. He was missing when we beat them at Anfield a few weeks ago. But Wembley is a big pitch, right? We've just gone through 120 minutes plus penalties just a few days ago. Liverpool are really going to need to keep the ball much better in possession than they did against PSG, so that it's Newcastle that are doing all the running and not us.
Agreed. The bigger pitch thing, we struggled at it at PSG. I do want to kind of reference, though, out of possession too. Just where their I think the midfield's also been getting stretched lately. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I feel like that 4-2-4 press when the opposition center backs have the ball is getting played through and bypassed way too much. I think we're seeing a little bit of fatigue on McAllister's end. Gravenberch just looks like can run for days. But I feel like when that midfield, gets bypassed, when the opposition has the ball, we struggle to recover. Now, Newcastle is not PSG. They're not City. They're not Arsenal. But they do have good players in midfield with Bruno and Joe Ellington. And so that could be a problem. But I also do think that tactically, maybe we approach this game with a bit more width. Like you said, if Newcastle compacts the midfield and trying to word this right, I don't want to say McAllister's struggling, but I feel like if on the bigger pitch, if they are playing more compact, we have to use the strength we have with our outside backs and with our wingers and just stretch them as much as we can. I think, and there's going to be times we did it at Anfield in that game a few weeks ago where we stretched them. So I feel like that's how you approach it. And then, I can't get my brain off of this press as well that we're struggling with.
Louie,
I've had multiple people approach me about that, just friends the last few weeks about we're getting bypassed without the ball.
It was true, and it was evident in that goal that we conceded against PSG.
And I think Newcastle might look to exploit it at times. I don't think they're going to target it. They do have players that can play. I don't want to disrespect them, but I think tactically, it's something that we need to work on a little bit.
Yeah, it's fine to disrespect other teams in this podcast. It's no problem. But Louie, Irby just mentioned about maybe having width. That width is going to be kind of compromised a little bit for us in the sense that Trent Alexander-Arnold is not going to be playing, and then you're probably going to have Kwanzaa, who, to be fair to Kwanzaa, when he came on against PSG, I thought he was pretty good. I thought he had a decent game, but he's not going to be that kind of marauding threat down that right flank or be able to, ping those passes in. So that's something that Slot is going to have to compensate for. Maybe the bulk of our attack will be down Robertson's flank.
Yeah, if only there was any evidence that kids could win Carabao Cup finals for Liverpool.
Yeah.
But I think on the plus side, this is a good time for Kwanzaa to be at right back because Gordon is out and Lewis Hall is out for this one. And therefore they have to play their backup on their left-hand side as well, with Harvey Barnes and probably Tino Livramento playing again, who is they're quality players, but also he's going to have that cover from Kadate, who will be playing, and we've seen that plenty of times this season. I don't think it's going to be one of those cases where Kwanzaa will be required to do as much as Trent, getting into midfield and, making those crosses into the box. Mind you, he can do that as well. So I think if there's any time for someone to feel motivation to step up and play well, driven by adrenaline, it will be. This would be the match 100%. And I just think they're such a beatable team, Newcastle, especially right now. We've proven that we can beat them, and it's always a great game whenever we play them. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I really feel optimistic.
Yeah, I do think though whenever we have these injuries to fullbacks. For me, it really just highlights the value that Joe Gomez brings to the squad because the guy can play left back, he can play right back. He's so experienced. A League Cup final is not going to phase him. So I think that's a really big miss for us. But look, it's time for a quick break. When we return, we'll do some predicted lineups and a score prediction. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Okay, welcome back. Let's get into some predictions. Let's start with the Liverpool lineup. Alisson, I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to start. But there's a question I've got for you guys. Louie, when it comes to penalties, I've heard a lot of talk that maybe Alisson isn't the right person to have in a penalty shootout. And I was just wondering that if, God forbid, if this went to extra time and it went to penalties, do you think that Slot would or should consider making a substitution and bringing on Kelleher? Not because he might necessarily be a better penalty saver, but just even if it's just to unsettle the opposition, having a new goalkeeper in goal for penalties.
No, I don't think the players would be fazed by having a different goalkeeper in goal, because I just think it's the objective is the same, score. So that they shouldn't worry about any goalkeeper. But I also think Alisson is good at saving penalties. He won us the FA Cup final on penalties a couple of years ago. And not to mention Kelleher, he didn't save any penalties when he was in goal in the League Cup final. It was Kepa that just
didn't he?
He did score one, yes. And Kepa blazed one over the bar, which was wonderful viewing. But no, I think whoever starts the match should end the match unless there's an injury. And I actually think Kelleher should play this game just because it's a League Cup final, and I think it's fair that if you've been playing in the earlier stages of this competition, you should at least get to finish it.
Really? So you think Kelleher should get the nod?
I think so. Kelleher's proven his worth for us many times this season, and I think it would be fair for him to go out on a trophy, because I think we all know he is probably going to leave in the summer as well.
I just think Slot is kind of hardcore. He's like,
he's ruthless, isn't he? Yeah.
He's like, okay, who's my best player in this particular position? And I don't care if you've played the first, 2, 3, 4 rounds. This is my best player, and you're going to be in goal. What do you think, Irby?
I think I saw something on Instagram last night that there was a report that he's going to play Kelleher. So,
really?
Yeah, I'll have to find it and send it y'all's way. But if it were me, I would still pick Alisson. There's just no question about it. You have to be ruthless. He's your best player, and he kind of just has that stature. Everyone knows he's the best goalkeeper in the world, and I think Newcastle will see, if they see Kelleher on the team sheet, an hour and a half before kickoff, they'll think, I think there could be an opportunity here. And Kelleher made that mistake that led to the equalizer at St. James Park back in December or January. So, but I'm hoping, whatever I saw online is false, and Alisson does start this match. That's what I would go with. But I still think, regardless of who does start, we're the favorites.
Give me your back four then, Irby. Who's your back four? Who's your 2 full-backs and your 2 centre-backs?
Kwan's on the right, Van Dijk, Konate, and I would go for Tsimikas.
Really?
No.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Because
I just think Robertson's better off the bench. Just that Scottish mentality of just kind of a chip on your shoulder coming off the bench in a final. I think he would have something to prove. He would come on at the 65th minute mark and make an impact. And I just think we all love Robertson, but I think his decline has been evident. I've been one of his harshest critics this season.
Yeah.
And I just think him coming off the bench at 60 minutes, whether we're already winning, we need a goal, I just think it's better for him to come off the bench. And Tsimikas he gives us flashes of brilliance when he starts matches now, but he can be exposed on that right side. So do have to be careful. I think he would only play 60, but I'd give him the nod. That's just me.
I'd go for Robertson. I think a big final, a cup final. I think the experience. I think, Tsimikas, for me, I think you're right. He does show flashes, but I think what this season has shown for me is that Tsimikas is a number one.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, he's not a first choice, and I just think for that reason, I think when you reach a final, I think you've got to go for. I think Robertson's experience trumps whatever flashes, Tsimikas, might kind of give. What do you think, Louie? Give us your back four.
I'm going Quansah, Kadate, Van Dijk, and Robertson as well. I just think, well, right back and the two centre backs right themselves, because those are the only players we have available. And Robertson, I just think when you have someone who can lead by example, who captains the international team as well, and who has been in these situations since Klopp came in, basically, it's a non-negotiable for me. He has been good recently. I disagree
Yeah, I
with
think
you.
he has
I
upped
think
his
he has
game.
been.
I
Yeah,
think he had
he
a
had
poor start, but I think he's upped his game.
he had a poor sort of December period,
Yeah.
but I think in recent weeks he's been working very hard. He's been sprinting up and down that left flank and getting into the dangerous areas. The one thing that Tsimikas does have over Robertson, in my opinion, is the sort of accuracy, though, because I think Tsimikas' crosses are slightly better than Robertson's, and also I haven't seen much of Tsimikas getting into the box and shooting. So, and I don't think he's ever even scored for Liverpool, but
No, he's
he
hopeless.
he can't be much worse than Robertson in that respect, because I
That's
think
true.
Robertson's shooting is awful.
What about midfield then, Irby? Let's move into midfield. Is he going to go for his tried and trusted?
Yeah, I think he has to. Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai. I mean, is this the game for Harvey Elliott? He's not gonna start him now in a final, is he?
Never.
I just think there is the question mark of not even a question mark of just there is a little bit of fatigue in midfield.
Yeah,
and I think Curtis Jones will have a point to prove, especially after missing a penalty. And he's kind of always there to just if one of them's not playing well or he's the first sub off the bench, I think he'll be desperate to start this match. But I think you do have to go with your best three midfielders and kind of just gain some control with what we know and what has been, like you said, the trident midfield. And, if it doesn't work after 60, 75 minutes or so, you can bring Curtis on and he brings life and energy. But I don't think there's any question of those three, especially in a match like this.
Yeah. Louis?
I'd probably go for Curtis Jones over Gravenberch, just because Gravenberch played all 120 and didn't stop running the entire time. And, McAllister came off, Szoboszlai came off. So I think it's fair that Curtis starts and maybe could come off. And Gravenberch could come on for either him or Szoboszlai throughout the game.
That really frustrates me about Curtis Jones, and I know a lot of people have said this, the guy just holds on to the ball too long in too many situations. And I just think that he thinks that because Slot is now the manager, and there was always this narrative at the start of the season that maybe Slot, who's slightly more possession based than Klopp, that this would suit Jones's game a little bit more. But it just seems to have kind of made him think that, okay, I can hold on to this ball for half an hour and no one's going to challenge me. So that's the only kind of thing that I've got with Curtis Jones. I don't understand why he doesn't take that out of his game. But let's move on to the forward line then. Irby, there are a few question marks. I mean, Salah probably expects to start, but then is it Nunez Jota? Is it Diaz Gakpo? Because Gakpo looked really off the pace when he came on Tuesday. Obviously, he's been out injured for a few games, and it's just amazing, I suppose, at this stage of the season, where players are in their rhythm, but he just looked completely off it.
Yeah, and I was about to ask, is this, we saw it for 2-3 games in a row where Curtis Jones was playing off the left. Do you think we could see something like that in a final like this? I'm not so sure, but I do think it'll be, if it were me, I would go Diaz Gakpo, but I don't think he will. I think Gakpo is the more dangerous of Nunez and Jota right now, even though he hasn't been playing. I just think his goal return he's a much more dangerous player, and he'll take his chances, whether he's in the flow and in the rhythm and kind of, going to be in that form after just 5 days of not playing too well in the Champions League. But you're right. Salah's nailed in. I would go Diaz through the middle and Gakpo on the left, and then Jota and Nunez off the bench with Chiesa. But I kind of just want to ask that question: do you think there's a possibility of Curtis on the left in a cup final? I don't think I can see it, but it's lingering in my head.
I think it's more likely to be Szoboszlai than Curtis Jones that would start on the left, because we've seen that a few times already this season.
I think there's a possibility that he could play the system that he played against City, which is to have two number 10s, which is Szoboszlai and Jones, to kind of pack out the midfield maybe and just kind of dominate in terms of possession. But I still think that I don't think he'll do that against Newcastle. In fact, I was surprised he didn't do that against PSG, not at home, but in the away leg, to try and, just kind of dominate possession. But I think that he's got to make that decision that Salah's going to be out wide, and then is it Nunez, Jota down the middle, or Diaz, Gakpo at the on the left? Louie, your front three.
It's a really hard one, because you don't really know what the situation is with Gakpo, but if he's fit, I think he should start on the left. And I'd probably still be a little bit. I'd still go with Jota. I think I know he really struggled against PSG, but you just rely on experience in these moments, and I just don't want to start Darwin Nunez. I think he's one of those that comes on and sort of messes with the defence a bit, like he did in the away leg at PSG. And I'd like to see Diaz come on for Gakpo after 60 minutes.
I think I'd start Nunez, as crazy as that sounds. Yeah, and I tell you why. I think that on this big pitch with Wembley, I think there's going to be grass to run into, and I think with Nunez's pace, he's probably the quickest out of those forward options that we've got.
I will say this though.
Yeah.
What about Salah? Because he played the full 120 minutes against PSG earlier in the week, to the point where he took a penalty, and there's a chance he could play 120 minutes again.
Louis, you tell Mo that he's not playing. Good luck with that.
Listen, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, is there not a danger though? Because if you can't have someone play for 4 hours in the space of 5 days or whatever it is.
I guess for most players, I just think that I think now that we're out of the Champions League, we're out of the FA Cup, the Premier League is pretty much sewn up.
We're not playing until April, are we, after this?
Yeah, and I just think that this is it now. This is the last game before the international break. So I can't see a world where Mo does not play or does not start this game.
We just have to get it done in 90 minutes.
Got to get it done in 90 minutes. We can't have another, extra time and penalties. So let's have a score prediction then. Irby, going to put you on the spot first, mate.
Oh, Jesus.
3-2 Liverpool after 120.
Oh, why did
you
say
do that? No, I don't want that.
I don't want it either, but I feel it coming. I think there will be a bit of a hangover from the start, and I think Isak will get one in the first 10-15, and it's gonna feel like that 2011 Cup final where we take a while to get going, we get a lead, and then it's gonna eventually go to extra time. I think Newcastle we'll get a lead, hang on to it for a while, and Newcastle equalize late, and then in similar fashion, we'll win in dramatic fashion in 120 minutes.
Oh God! If it goes to extra time, they're just going to have to stretch a Canate off straight away. He's going to be finished. Louis, score prediction?
Oh, jeez. I think Newcastle score first, like you mentioned.
Ooh.
And then we wait until like the 57th minute to start getting going, like something like that. And I think hopefully we win. It's 2-1 or 3-1 in 90 minutes. But I'm really worried we're only going to get one. It's going to feel like we should have got more, and then 90 minutes comes around and we have to go to extra time, because that is so typical of us. Hopefully 2-1 in 90 minutes, if not 2-1 in extra time. It's going to end 2-1. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to go for a very professional 2-0 win.
I don't see us keeping a clean sheet in a final.
I think Slot is gonna. He's gonna.
Do you know how big this game is for the Newcastle players?
Yes, I do. Yeah, they've had big games since 1955. So yeah,
they've won some, like, just not any good ones since then. I think they won like the Intertoto Cup winners.
Yeah, no one knows what that was. It's like it was
the Milk Cup, I think, at one point.
No. The Milk Cup was just the League Cup, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
but
they won the Fairs Cup or something like that in.
Yeah, that was it. That was
in
it.
9 or something. Cup. I don't know, something like that. But no one counts it. So, but I think that. I think the boys are they're gonna produce not a scintillating performance, but I think a very well managed professional performance, because I don't know if there's enough left in the tank for anything more than that. So I think they're going to manage this and get a 2-0. So
I would take it. I hope you're right.
Yeah, I would love that to be true, Jesse. But
probably 4-4, right? Probably 4-4 after 90 minutes.
I think. Do you know what it is? I think I'm just very pessimistic after that PSG thing. I'm still in the hangover of that, so I need.
No, I think this is going to be a good season. You know, yeah, hopefully.
I think we win. But it's just I don't want it to be too stressful.
That's part of the package, man. That's part of the deal. But look, that is all for today. Give us a follow on your preferred podcast platform so that you get the very latest content when it drops. Follow us on social media at GSPN Liverpool. You can email us at gspndailyliverpool@gmail.com. Join us again on Monday for our Cup final special, where I hope we're discussing a Liverpool Cup win. My thanks to Louie, Easton, Irby White, and Irby's cat. Mayhem. Well, you know what? Look, you want to see a well-behaved cat? I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see.
I can see by your arm. Yeah, I can see it. All curled up on your bed.
And I'll show you the size of him.
Great football podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Where's yours, Louie?
I don't have a cat. I have 2 dogs. Oh my word! That is a fur ball. It's like a carpet.
Right. So from us and our respective feline friends, that is all for today. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.